Welcome to True You Ministries. I'm Stacy Echeverria, your pastoral counselor. I am a licensed pastoral counselor whose own journey has taught me the importance of having a safe place to discuss the harder issues of life. I'm so grateful that you've joined me this week. You can learn more about me and my heartfelt desire to help people much like yourself who may be at a place of pain and confusion by calling me at 626-461-3344. That's 626-461-3344, or feel free to email me at info@trueyouministries.com. Now, sit back, listen, watch, and enjoy the show. And welcome to True You Ministries. I'm Stacy Echeverria, your licensed pastoral counselor. And today I have Katrina Session back on the show for part 2 of Navigating Marital Challenges with the Word of God. Welcome, Katrina. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know we had a little bit of a technical difficulty towards the end of part 1, and Katrina was sharing with us how she got into coaching and the women that she currently coaches with. So we would like for Katrina to share that because it was totally missed in part 1. And so we're giving her another opportunity to share that before we get into some of the practical things that Katrina helps her clients with regard to not feeling frustrated in their marriages, but what are some things they can do to stay in their marriage, but also have a thriving and vibrant marriage as well. So before we get into that, Katrina, please share with our audience again, how did you get into coaching?
Okay. So I was saying that I was kind of newly married, and I found myself talking to a lot of unhappy wives. And it would usually be my family's in the car waiting, and I'm talking. And, I didn't know, really how to help them. I was basically just listening. And what happened was that one day we were on our way to a funeral, and we ran to one of our friends, which is not unusual. And we're just small talking with him a little bit. And then I said, "How's your wife?" And there was a pause. And then he said, "I don't know." And, I thought he was joking, but he's not the joking kind of guy. And I said, "What do you mean you don't know?" And he said, "We're not together anymore."
Wow.
And so, my husband and I, we were just like, we couldn't believe it. And he shared a little bit, not much. And we had to get into the service.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just, I don't know if we heard anything at that service. We were so much in shock because we didn't know. And the wife didn't want anyone to know. So because we're all friends. And so, after that day, we decided that number one, we were going to shore up our own marriage. And number two, try to figure out what we could do to help others. So we went to our premarital counselor, and so we would have an annual checkup. And then we went to seminars, and then I was reading books. And then we had a couples group that we were in. So we tried to do everything that we could to help ourselves and help others.
Oh,
And
wow.
again, I wasn't doing it for a living. I was just trying to, help my friends because I believe so much in marriage.
Right.
And one of my colleagues said, "You know what? You have the skill set for life coaching." It's like, "What's that?" Because it was new. I had heard of it.
Right.
And she said, "Oh, let's go get certified together." So we did, and that was 2010. And
Wow.
so I was doing personal development, and which I love. And then in 2019, I had a life change. So my youngest son graduated from high school and was going to college in the fall. And I had been very, very, very active in his school life. So I was a homeschool mom. I was a football mom. I was a track and field mom. I was a basketball mom. And so I had all these communities, all these things that I belonged to. I'm in the, I would go to the mom's prayer and just all of these things. And then come fall 2019, they were gone.
Oh, wow.
You know,
Yeah.
they say you can come back, but it's just not the same. And
Right.
trying to find a group for college moms, it just didn't happen. And so I
Mhm.
decided to dig more into my life coaching and make it more of a career. And I my business coach tried empty nesters, and she just said, "Oh, you don't seem to have the fire for it." And I said, "I'm called to wives."
I love that.
So we restructured everything, and she could see that I was passionate about wives, and so that's how I started to uh,
Wow.
to work with wives.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're called to a particular people group, right?
Yeah,
And when we start to veer outside of that, there is just no peace and there's really no joy in it either.
no, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's great that you knew that you were called to wives, and it's great having someone like you out there helping these women, you know. Marriage is not easy. It
no,
is hard, right?
right.
But with anything that's worth having, you need to work at it. So I'm so glad that there are coaches like you that can help wives with some practical things that they can do, to help shore up, and realizing that it's not just the wives that need to do the work, but the husbands as well, because there's two people in a relationship. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. So thank you so much for sharing that story. It's really inspiring. And I just wanted to share with everyone your website. It is inyourimage.lifecoaching.com. And Katrina offers a free 20-minute consultation, and you can schedule that at coachkatrina.as.me. You won't lose anything by having a free consultation. You never know. Katrina may have just exactly what you're looking for to shore up your marriage as well, and maybe even make it better. There may be things that you don't even realize might be problematic for you. So it's always great to have wise, godly counsel around anything that we may be struggling with.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into, and this is one of my favorite parts of the show, where we get into some practical steps that we can leave the audience with. They can walk away with some, nuggets here and there that they can implement. So let's start with the first group of women that you do coach, and that is high achieving women. So how do you help these women navigate the challenges, in their marriages, but with the word of God?
I help them by helping them to realize that there is um, a persona that you have when you're at work, but there
Hmm.
also needs to be one at home. And if you're high achieving, used to getting things done, you cannot come home and order maybe you can order your children, but you can't order your husband around. It's just not going to work. And if
Right.
he doesn't say anything verbally, the actions speak louder than words. And
Right.
so that's kind of the first thing that I work with them on is, you have to leave work at work. When
Hmm.
you get to your house, then you have to change into, I'm a wife, I'm a mother,
Right.
whatever your role is. And,
Right.
that takes a bit of work. And also it takes, sometimes husbands are strong and they say, I'm not your employee, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you
Right.
have that kind of husband, then it's a little bit easier to change. And
Right.
the other thing is that sometimes when we're unhappy with ourselves, the our spouse's weaknesses are put in the forefront. So helping
Right.
them to dig into themselves, make sure that they are happy with themselves, that there's not something going on, they're not, experiencing a lot of disappointment in their lives, or at a dead end, don't know what to do, that kind of thing. So making sure of that, and if they are unhappy with themselves, helping them to work through that with personal development and um, you know talking it out and making some plans for their own future.
Right. Right. Do you experience with the clients that you work with, is there do they struggle with comparison at all?
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah,
absolutely. Not
yeah.
necessarily the high achieving ones, but the other clients, that's part of the problem. That's part of why they're unhappy because
Okay.
everybody else looks happier. Okay, back to Facebook, Instagram, all of that. You know,
None of that's real anyway.
no, everybody's, they look so wonderful. They're having so much fun with their spouse. They go and and the joke is that they were just arguing before the picture, but when the picture comes,
This is not real, folks.
it's not real. And one of my clients actually said that because I said, "Oh, it looks like you all are getting along," because he had his arm around her, and she said, "Oh, we can do anything for a picture."
Oh, wow. Wow, look at all the effort they do for a picture.
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
about the marriage
Well,
itself, right?
yes. And I
Yeah.
also find when this is going on that they've been possibly been so busy, so task oriented that their relationship with the Lord has suffered.
Yeah. Yes. So is part of the coaching, do you do any kind of spiritual coaching with them as far as like with some of my clients, when I'm hearing, this is going on, that's going on, and and I'll ask them, and usually with all of my clients that I start with, I'll ask them, so what's your relationship like with the Lord? Do you have a daily devotional? Do you pray daily? What is your spirit? What are the spiritual disciplines that you implement in your life? And a lot of them, they're like, I don't really have anything. And so I start working with them, on that. Do you do any of that with your clients?
I do a small version of that, and it's
Okay.
more along the lines of making sure they're not mixing going to church with having a relationship with Christ.
Oh, so important.
Hmm. Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Right.
Are you reading your Bible? Are you listening for the still small voice of the Lord?
Yeah.
Are you trying to be a Christ follower? Because if you are, then you'd be kinder, gentler, nicer.
More respectful.
Yeah, that's what we would hope. But I also find that wives are pretty mean.
They can be when they're really, really unhappy.
Hmm.
and
Absolutely.
and and then that unhappiness gets projected onto the husband as the object of their unhappiness,
Hmm.
when maybe they don't even realize that they walked into the marriage with it to begin with.
Possibility.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah, because we do. We all walk into relationships with baggage.
Yes.
And so we really have to get a handle on all of that. That's so important. I liked what you said about helping them know the difference between going to church on Sunday and
Hmm.
having a relationship with Christ. Because
Hmm.
Sunday church is once a week,
Right.
and a relationship, well, that's daily, isn't it?
It is dating.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why
Hmm.
do you think some clients or some people may want to avoid that daily relationship? What do you think some of the I don't know, is there confusion around that? Are there some things that they're believing that aren't necessarily true? Has that come up in your coaching at all?
Some of the things that are going on is that, again, remember, she's getting things done. So at her church, she's the go to person. She's on this committee
Right.
and that committee, and everything that happens, they, kind of ask her, well, can you help do this? Well, can you help do that? And maybe the same for her husband. And the thing is that she's not getting fed
Right.
because she's always the doer. She doesn't
Right.
go, she doesn't probably have time to go to Bible study and sit and get fed, or
Right.
doesn't have time to mentor with anybody to get fed. And so that's part of the problem, that her tank of her spiritual tank may be empty. And
Right.
so that's what I find mostly is that there's not, they're not getting fed, or
Right.
they're so distracted, so busy, so um, here, there, and everywhere that there is no time for the Bible. There's no time for
Yeah.
devotion. There's no time, because when they
Right.
get it, then they're probably watching TV or surfing on the, computer, all those kinds of things. So it's easy to
Right.
push God out.
Right. Right. Yeah. So for me, in the work that I do, when I hear all these committees doing this, doing that, so my first question, and they don't have time for God, right? They don't have time to develop their relationship with Him, spend time with Him on a daily basis.
Hmm.
The first question I ask them is, what are you running from? What are you trying to avoid? Because that's what's going on there.
Hmm.
What are you running away from, and what are you running toward? So trying to get them to have a balance as well, and also, with the high achieving individuals, they may derive identity from that,
Absolutely.
and helping them get anchored in where their identity really is, and that is in Jesus Christ, and that never changes regardless of what they do or what they don't do.
Hmm.
That's where identity comes from. It's not in what we do, it's in who we are and whose we are. So helping them reorient, to that can be tricky, but it's doable if they want to.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, what about the women that are tired and frustrated? How do you approach them differently than you do the high achieving women?
The ones that are tired and frustrating, I try to get them to just rest. Just stop.
Rest. Okay.
Stop striving. Just stop. And let's take account of what's really going on, not what you think, not what you assume. What are you seeing and what are you feeling?
Okay.
And don't put words in your husband's mouth. Ask him.
Right. Right.
The biggest thing is just assuming, well, he didn't do this, so I guess he's this, you know?
Mm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
the other part of that is not understanding men.
Mm-hmm.
They are
Mm-hmm.
men. They are not like women. I don't care what
Right.
society says.
I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I find that men are much more simpler than
Yeah.
women are. Women tend to be much more complex. And when
Hmm.
I say simple, I don't mean stupid and I don't mean dumb. They're just simpler, right? When we look at mean girls, I'm like, yep, I knew some mean girls at school, and I go, and guys don't do that. And my husband's like, guys don't do that. And I'm like, I know they don't do that.
Right.
Although we've got the bullies, but that's a different thing. But yeah, they're just not into the stuff of that women do. The backbiting, the cattiness, any of that. They're pretty simple, right? So we
Right.
need to keep it simple with them. Um, the assumptions. So, what do you think would be the underlying reason why wives will make assumptions about why their husbands did or didn't do something?
Because it's easier than asking them or dealing with the response,
Hmm.
and it takes time.
Right, right, right. And maybe there's a fear of knowing the answer.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So I always tell my clients, move toward it.
Yes.
Step into the hard things,
Hmm.
right? Right, because
Absolutely.
nothing. Right, because nothing ever goes away until it's resolved. So we need to resolve it one way or the other.
And I use the term, there's an elephant in the room, you need to address it.
Yeah, yeah. The elephant's not going anywhere. He's just in the way right now.
Right.
Yeah, needing to address it. Yes. Do you think maybe one of the reasons why some of the clients that you coach struggle with addressing the hard things is because they haven't learned how to do that in a positive, productive way? And is that something that you help them with?
Part of it is that, and the other part again is, um, you know, it's not um, it's not the popular way. You have to try this and try that, and it's just the good old fashioned. Let's sit down and talk. This is how I feel. The I feel, and
Yeah,
not
the I statements. Hmm.
yes, and try to get to some kind of understanding. But you both have to um, be willing to do that. And so
Yeah.
the other thing is for them not to wait too long, not to. not to pile it up and then blah on their husbands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
agree. I agree. All right. So the last group of women that I'd like to hear about and how you approach them and how you help them are the women that are feeling hopeless.
Mhm.
How would you approach them? That's a really difficult place to be in, and it's hard,
Yes,
right?
it is. It is
Yeah. Yeah.
difficult and it's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
And that's definitely where they have to have a relationship with Christ because that's where their hope comes from. It's not going to come from any other area. And they also have to believe that the Lord hears them, the Lord cares for them, and the Lord will answer in His time and in His way. And
Right.
so they really have to dig deep. They have to journal. They have to, you know, spend time with the Lord. You know, just really, really digging in deep. And then we have to work on why they're feeling hopeless, what really is going on. I find a lot of times that what the wife is upset about or um, is focused on in the scheme of things is not really that important.
Mm,
You know,
mm,
5 years from now, will this matter? You know,
mm.
that, he didn't, sit down for dinner, you know, one night because, you know, he wanted to watch TV. I mean, really? So, things like that, making a big deal out of things that probably shouldn't be a big deal. And,
Mhm.
and again, just being emotional. It could be hormones, it could be personality, those kinds of things we have to, talk about. And
Right.
so the main thing is husbands, men don't like crying women.
They don't know what to do with them.
No, no. So that's going to be a turnoff. They don't like yelling women.
Right.
You're not going to get anywhere. So you
Right.
really have to get your emotions in control, and you have to figure out what is causing you to act like that.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and so again, getting a hold of yourself. Why
Yeah.
why are you frustrated? Why are you lashing out at other people? What's
Right.
happening?
Right.
Hmm.
Right. I think and that's really good. I think we live in a world right now where it's all about the feelings and, going with the feelings and it's like, your feelings change from second to second.
Right.
So, you know, it's not a realistic measure of anything, right? And to just flow with that and I'm going you end up being all over the place and scattered and
Hmm.
it's difficult dealing with people that where the emotions are just never know what they're going to be second to second. And so we're not saying that we don't acknowledge the feelings, we acknowledge them, but we also have to identify, well, what is this really about? What am I overreacting about? What am I underreacting? Because we've got the survival responses. There's the fight, flight,
Yep.
freezing, or going numb.
Hmm.
And so the easy one with the fight is that's the anger, that lashing out, that angry, right?
Hmm.
The flight is not even addressing it. It's I'm leaving the room. Not going to have a talk about it. They're out. And the freezing and going numb is that withdrawing, and you don't say anything, right? It's like the deer caught in the headlights.
Hmm.
But you know, your husband's supposed to be a safe person for you, and it really, I always tell people, it isn't so much in what you say, it's how you say it.
That's right.
How you say it is going to be really, really key. There was a book that I read a number of years ago, and I really liked what this particular author said. You could be right but wrong at the top of your voice,
That's good. That's good.
right?
Right.
So the approach, and I like that you said, the I statements. So there's the right way of an I statement, and there's a wrong way of the I statement. And the right way, or the correct way, or the more healthy way is, I feel sad or I feel hurt when this happens, right? So we're taking responsibility for
Hmm.
what we're feeling,
Yes.
you know. I felt angry when you did this. Well, seriously, your husband's going to shut down and he's not going to want to hear it because it's blaming. So it's really about taking responsibility and being vulnerable and sharing, what you are feeling.
Yes.
Try a different approach because whatever approach you might be using right now that isn't working is not going to work any further. So try something different
Mhm.
to get right a different response.
Yep.
And that takes time. That takes learning a new way of doing things.
Mhm.
But is it worth it? Right? Is it worth it?
Absolutely, it's worth it. Yes.
Right. Right. Yeah, I love that. And I love too that you also have on here and you talked about it, with the high achieving women. But for all of them, I would think that mentors of older women who've been married for, there are women in the church that have been married 40, 50, 60 years, right?
Mhm.
Couples that they can talk with, how are you still married after 60 years, right?
Right.
What are the things that they're doing that keeps the love alive, if you will? I think that's really important because when we look at the cross, we're looking at the vertical as the relationship that we have with the Lord, and then the horizontal on the cross is the relationships we have with each other.
Mhm.
And so we're designed and created to have relationships. So inviting people into those difficult things, that are happening in our lives, in our marriages, and inviting those older mentors, the ones that are wise. They've got a lot of life behind them and they've learned so much and they have that wisdom.
Mhm.
Seek them out.
Yes. And sometimes wives don't because they are embarrassed or ashamed or prideful, and they
Right.
don't want anyone to know that they're having marriage challenges. And I tell them, we already know. Why do we know? Because we're married. When you're married, you're going to have marriage challenges. When you're when you're a parent, you're going to have parent challenges.
Right.
So you're not hiding anything from anybody.
Right.
Everybody has marriage challenges. The
Right.
thing is, what are you going to do with your marriage challenges?
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And I know in so much of the work that I do with people that are struggling with sex addiction,
Mhm.
and specifically that's hidden. And so even with not sharing about the marriage challenges, they're keeping that hidden and they're keeping that a secret. Well, that's what the enemy wants. That's what our adversary wants. He wants
Mhm.
us to keep it hidden because there's shame around it. And when
Yeah.
there's shame around it, it says no one can know about this. And so then where do you get the help? You're not getting any help and it's going to get worse. And
Yeah.
so it's bringing it into the light so that our Father God, Abba Father, can get in there and start doing that beautiful healing work that he wants to do in all of us,
Yes.
right? Bring
Yes.
it out into the light. you
Mhm.
know, Katrina, do you have any last word of wisdom that you would like to share before we wrap up?
Wives, your husband is not like you. Learn to understand him as a man and as a husband, and remember that you are honoring the institution of marriage that God created. This is a big deal.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
And again, for those of you that have been watching and listening, this is Katrina's website, inyourimagecoaching.com. Please do reach out to her and schedule that free consultation at coachkatrina.as.me. She offers a 20-minute free consultation. You have absolutely nothing to lose, but everything to gain by scheduling with Katrina. Thank you so much, Katrina, for being on the show. And before we wrap up, I'd like to leave you all with a hopeful scripture, Jeremiah 29:11.
My
For
favorite.
I, yeah, it's my favorite as well. It's my life verse. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And that includes your husband. He was part of that plan, and he's a good thing, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, for those of you that are struggling, where you don't know which way to go, you're not sure that anything is working with regard to the challenges that you're having in your marriage, the Lord is waiting for you to say yes to Him. If you don't know Him, He is the one that created the institution of marriage, and He knows all about it. And then He brings beautiful people like Katrina into this world who has a heart for wives to help you also get on track and on plan with what the Lord has for you in marriage and for your husband as well, because this is the two of you. So please reach out to him. Say yes to the Lord if you haven't already. If you've got questions about salvation, please reach out to me. I can be reached at my website at trueyouministries.com, or you can call me at 626-461-3344. Email me at info@trueyouministries.com. And on my website, I have a free consultation button that you can click. You can either have a consultation with me around counseling, or if you just want to have a chat about salvation and what does that mean. It's going to be the easiest thing you've ever done in your life. It takes nothing but saying yes to Jesus, and He'll do the rest. But He'll require your partnership as well and your cooperation also. But your life will never be the same. So thank you again, Katrina, for being on the show. You're so delightful.
Thank you.
And thank you to all that have been listening and watching, and may the Lord bless you.
God bless you.
You've been listening to True You Ministries with me, Stacy Echeverria, your pastoral counselor. I'm a licensed pastoral counselor whose own journey has taught me the importance of having a safe place to discuss the harder issues of life. You can learn more about me and my heartfelt desire to help people, much like yourself, who may be at a place of pain and confusion by calling me at 626-461-3344. That's 626-461-3344. Or feel free to email me at info@trueyouministries.com. That email, once again, is info@trueyouministries.com. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and may God richly bless you.